Okay, this lesson for our Koine Project class, we'll give the, let's say, the greatest answer, the best answer, and why not superlative, because we'll take it straight from the author of John's Gospel and his letter, 1 John, and we'll notice the conclusive, definitive response for the rationale that we have developed for why regeneration does not precede faith, that is, that simple form of action to trust. So let's look at this. We've looked at John 20:31 before and compared it to 1 John 5:1. Now we'll look at that also, plus John 42, a part of it, and then correlate it with 1 John 5:10. And we'll notice some things here very quickly. John's gospel was written, all these signs Jesus did, but these particular ones were written and remain on record in order that, in order that. Now, if you're not doing the Greek part of this, you can just go forward to the conclusions. In order that you all might believe, PISTU SETA, second person plural, aorist, active, subjunctive, in order that you all might believe. There we go. That hoti, that the Jesus estin is the Christ, Christos, the Christ, the Son, the Son, to Theou, of the Theou, of the God. There we go. And that's just the first half. So now let's move over here and notice it says pos, everyone, well, every, and then of course the article, the pistuon. That's present active participle. Everyone who is already believing. Now notice how it correlates with this one, that hoti, that Jesus, that Jesus estin is the Christ, Christos. There we go. Then it says ek, out from Theou, I believe it's to Theou, the God. There we go. And then we have this genetai. Now that's perfect active indicative, and it says has been previously fathered, and of course, and remains presently fathered out from the God. So notice that previously, so when was this person fathered out from? Well, not before they believed that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the God. So you can see why when this says previously, it's prior to being the one who is already believing. And then in John 12:42, you remember we had that text that said, poloi, many ones. Let me see, it was epistu son, epistu son, many ones, aorist, indicative, active, third person plural, many ones believed, puncture action again, simple action, believed. That's simple action believed. Believed eis auton, into him. Now notice this carefully as it becomes rather obvious. Then we come over here and it says, same author, the writer says, the one, let me go ahead and write that out, the one who is already believing. So the one who is already believing notice that, into ton huion, the son to theu of the God. There we go. Eke is already having tain the martion in auto, the testimony or the witness in himself. So noteworthy is the fact that this, John is speaking here on, when we're referring to this, the one who is already believing into the Son of the God is already having the witness in himself. But notice that this is after someone believes into him. So a person is not described or recorded or identified as one who's already believing unless they first believed. So we have into him, point of action, they believed into him. Then we speak of those that are already believing into him. So these weren't people that had not believed into him. And John 20:31, in order that you all might believe, simple form of action, that the Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the God. Well, then he's talking to those who are already believing. Everyone who is already believing that Jesus is the Christ has been previously, and that's back here when they believed into him. You remember Paul said, Galatians 2:16, and we'll close here. He said, even we ourselves believed, pistou, Salmon, first person, plural, we believed, into eis Christon Jesun. There we go. Into Christ Jesus. So we don't have a situation where someone would be spoken of as already believing into the Son of God who hasn't first believed into him. We don't have a situation where someone is said to already be believing that Jesus is the Christ. Believing that Jesus is Christ who hasn't first believed, punctular action, that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the God. And that's why it says when they were previously begotten, it was when they believed into Jesus Christ. So here's the best answer. Comes from John, his gospel, and of course we call the letter 1 John. But you can see how these are very good correlates. This is speaking of believe that Jesus is the Christ, the ones who are already believing that he's the Christ. This is those who believe into him, and then this is speaking of those who are already believing into him. And of course, I always bring in Paul the apostle so that I can show how consistent he is with speaking of why he believed into Jesus Christ was in order that he might be declared right, or it said we ourselves believed into Jesus Christ, or we might be declared right, just out from his faithfulness. You have a blessed day. Enjoy this lesson.